Hello, this is Nigel at Spiritual Awareness New Zealand, and it is 4:37 p.m. on the 8th of August, I think it is. Let's have a look here. This is a it's 8th of August. Hadn't bothered to check. Okay, this is a very informal meeting here, or not meeting, chat, and I just wanted to talk about different subjects. A few things that have come up in the last few days, and one is smart meters, and there was a post, an article about how smart meters, this guy had found that the smart meters had actually affected his heart rate, and his heart rate had gone way up when the smart meter was sending information and so forth. And I posted about that, and quite a few people replied to it and so forth. And the thing is that I had some experience with stuff like that, with my heart rate and so forth. Only when I was sleeping. I'm very normal health-wise. Otherwise, I like to think so at least. And anyway, in a few years ago, I had some root canals. Actually, many years ago, I had some root canals done, and only later than that did I discover that the actual harm that root canals do. And okay, that's fine. I over that one, but when I was living in US in Florida, I went to see a chiropractor, and because I had some bizarre stuff going on with my circulation and heart rate and so forth, and it was really quite odd. And what we found was that just adjust the computer a little bit there, but what we found was that when he had some hookup, some computer hookup thing that could monitor the body's activities, if you like. I'm not big. I'm not big into medicine and all of this, but he had this thing. It was very good, and he hooked it up to me, and he got me to lay down. He had me lay down on the bed in his practice there. And then he had me stand up. And anyway, what he discovered from this was that when I lay down, my autonomic nervous system virtually completely shut down, right? And when I stood up, within about 2 minutes, basically, it would switch back on again. And we did this a couple of times to cross-check it. And literally that's what was happening. Now, traditional doctors just don't have a grip on this kind of a thing. They can test for it and so forth, but they have very limited scope. They're like horses with those, kind of those blinders on. They have been trained in a certain direction, and only a few of them, some real good ones, will actually start looking further out. The rest of them are well-trained racehorses. They do what they do, but they don't know a whole lot else. And if you throw them a spinny question, something out of their range, then it just throws them into a spin. So anyway, what it turns out from all of this, by the way, is that why I'm talking about root canals and so forth is that in Chinese medicine there is a chart of teeth, if you like, a tooth chart that links each tooth to a different organ of the body. And as it turns out, the nerves of the teeth are essentially a switchboard for the nervous system in the body. So when you start chopping around with your teeth, you know, drilling here and there and all of that, as they do, in the torture houses, as we used to call them, also known as dental clinics, and so forth. Anyway, when they drill into these nerves, and as they do in root canals, they just totally destroy the nerve. Well, anyone who's been through a severe toothache, a really bad one, like an abscess or something like that, knows the complete and utter pain that a few cells can cause an entire body, right? Headaches, just unbearable pain. And I've always had this theory, although I haven't been shot in this lifetime, you know, I have been shot in earlier lifetimes, that's for sure, but not this one. And I swear that being shot in the arm or leg or something like that will cause a hell of a lot less pain than a real good dose of toothache, where a few cells can just create sheer agony. But that makes sense when you consider that the mouth, the teeth, the nerves there are the central switchboard for the nervous system. Excuse me. And so when these teeth get drilled in and so forth, when you have root canals and you get all these fillings and you get the mercury put in there and so forth, and the amalgam, lead and mercury, what a beautiful mix that is. So when that happens, it interrupts that switchboard, and the result is that it's going to play havoc on your body in some way, right? It's going to do that, depending on which tooth, which organ is affected, and so forth. So, you know, I'm just giving you this info just to give you a little bit of an understanding for those who maybe don't know about that. It might tick a few boxes or answer some questions, or however you want to put it, but it sure did answer a few questions for me. And not that it solved it, because the damage that was done and it's undoable at this point. If you want to go back further on that, one other thing I learned, and I learned this more through my own personal experience than through anything I particularly read, although I had read quite a lot over the years, and that is that tooth decay isn't necessarily from the sugar in your mouth burning holes in your teeth, right? And although I'm sure it has that effect, and sugar can be very acidic and so forth, it's not, and also you know, food in the mouth and so forth, right? But it's not necessarily that causes your tooth decay. It's actually, and partly it can be, but part of it also is that when you have all the sugary food and so forth, and you're absorbing that into your blood system that supplies those teeth and those nerves and so forth. So what you're actually getting is teeth can actually rot from the inside out, not necessarily the outside in. It can happen both ways, I guess. But you know, and I'm as I say, you know, I'm not an expert in these subjects and so forth, but I am a human being, and I can observe what I observe and know what I know. Now, I probably will be doing a few of these videos, And I want to point out something here is there are going to be plenty of subjects that I talk about, including what I'm talking about right now, where people are going to go, oh, well, I know exactly, much better, more and so forth about this and that and the other. And okay, they know what they know too. But I also know what I know. And I'm not professing to be an expert in any of it, and I don't think that they are, because there are so many facets to living as a human being that I challenge anybody to be an expert at it. You would have to be immortal and so forth to really say, okay, well, I'm now an expert in life and so forth. Right? You have to get to that point, right? But because you can be an expert in one area, you can know something, but then there's already other dynamics that come into that, other subjects and other viewpoints that maybe they're not trained in, and that can affect that same area, whether it's teeth or whether it's health or whether it's something or other else. Now, one thing I am trained in and have spent many years researching is the field of the mind and the spirit. And on that, I would like to say that I am very knowledgeable, and it does influence every sphere of life, every sphere, your health, everything you do in life is influenced by that. Even your perceptions, what you see, what you hear, and so forth. This universe is composed of matter, energy, space, and time. And as most of the people who are watching this video will know, I have studied greatly the subject of Scientology and Dianetics. The founder of Dianetics and Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. I studied that by reading the books, by studying the information, by personal test to see whether it worked or not for me, and to see whether it worked or not for others. And from that, I concluded for myself that it works, right? Now, I'm not trying to convince anybody that you should believe in it, that you should study it, that, I do recommend you should study it, but I recommend you should study it to find out for yourself, right, whether it works, whether it's something you can use and so forth. I happen to just know that it's something that works and that I can use because I've come to that point. But that's just for me, right? And my viewpoint isn't yours, and I respect that too, So that's where I'm coming from with this, and that's where I was talking about the teeth thing and so forth. As I say, this universe is composed of matter, energy, space, and time, and we are the creators of that as spiritual beings. However, we have, if you want to say it this way, right, we have fallen from grace. Or you can say we are kind of pretty screwed right now. And as spiritual beings, just to be on this planet alone, you have to be pretty screwed up. And the reason why is because to be on this planet, you already are immersed within let's say immersed in the physical universe, which isn't a natural state for a spiritual being. Natural state is to be able to observe, be a part of it, be not part of it at will, not to be stuck in a meat body, which is what these human bodies are, and with a dependency on it for one's perceptions, for one's life, for one's ability to carry on a game, if you like. So, yeah. I hope you're following me on that. Now, I also want to do more interviews on people, members of the group, and so forth, and I will be doing that. I have a few lined up, some interesting ones coming up, and so that's that subject. And quite honestly, this is me. I'm not going to pretty up this interview any particularly. I'm not trying to. I want to just get out there, and those people who want to will watch this, and those people who don't want to don't have to, and maybe won't. And then there'll be other screwballs that will watch it just for the thrill of picking holes in what I say or something like that, and those people are who they are, they know who they are. And we know who they are too. So, it's all a matter of what purpose you want to get out of this. Now, while I happen to have you here and why I happen to be doing this, because I didn't really have any particularly important things or any subject matter that I was set out to do in this interview. I just wanted to start. And one of the basics in Scientology is that a person is surviving to a greater or lesser degree as a being, and that is measured by their tone level, emotional tone, which is a scale of of emotions, if you like, that are actually laid out, and emotions are laid out in a very exact order, and that goes from very low to high, or high to low, if you depending on which direction you're going. Most people these days seem to be going down rather than up, but right down the bottom of that scale, or getting down toward the bottom of that scale, there is death. There are actually, I won't go into this a whole lot at the moment, but there are actually emotional levels below death, which are pretty horrific. And then from death, right up above that, you have apathy, because apathy is just before death. It is where a person's nearly dead, but they're not quite dead. They're just given up all hopes. They are apathetic about life. And so you have death, and then apathy, and then you have grief, and there are a lot of sub levels in all of this as well. And then you can have from grief, you have above that you have fear, and above that you have anger. Now, fear is failed anger. It's like if a person gets angry and that fails, they can go into fear. And if they are in fear and that doesn't work, they go into grief. And if grief doesn't work, they go into apathy. It kind of works like that. Now, slightly above anger is antagonism. And so antagonism is where, well, let's go back to anger. Anger is where a person's fighting to survive, right? They're fighting to survive. That's kind of like where they're still fighting. But the fight to survive is kind of like a little bit, how to say, wrong targeted. It's kind of a wild attack, but not necessarily in the right direction. So an angry person will just sort of like blame all sorts of things and not necessarily the right thing. And then, so he's fighting to survive, which is better than apathy, which is, a person who's given up. So a person in anger is, let's say, at least trying to survive in some way, but he can be not very nice to be around, an angry person all the time. Antagonism is where the person is a little bit higher. They are not quite angry. They are a little bit sort of, aggrieved about things, if you like. They they'll pick faults and things, and they're a bit angry, but it's kind of like in short bursts and so forth. And above antagonism, you find boredom, and that's where a person's kind of like doing okay, but there's no real challenges in life, so they just they're really quite bored. You know, nothing's really exciting, and they're not really excited about doing anything particularly as well. They just, oh yeah, well, I'll get around to it, and so forth. And then it goes up to mild interest, strong interest, cheerful, enthusiastic. And it goes up higher than that as well. And up really high, you get aesthetics or art. And so when a person gets really cheerful and really, you know, and enthusiastic and so forth, you'll find that they actually become more and more creative, and they will get interested in some kind of art, whether it's music or painting or whatever that might be, you know, however they may express it. But they will become very creative. And they will also be surviving better. Their health will be better, and their general outlook on life will be better. They have a lot of interests in different areas and different subjects, and interested in family and groups and so forth. So they're spread quite widely. As a person goes down, they withdraw their interests from many of these areas of their life, and they become more and more subtracted or individualized, and less interested in things that are going on around them, and more interested in themselves or their problems, more like. And you'll find that as they go down, that their health becomes more of the problem, and they become they usually have some sort of ongoing health condition, medical condition, so forth. Right now, this is not to blame anybody for any condition they may be in right now. It's just a matter of a fact that this is how it goes. You know, so if you find yourself in one of these lower conditions, these lower tones, then what I suggest is you listen in very carefully to the solutions, because I am offering them. There are books, there is counselling you can kind of do, which is called auditing, where you can kind of, well, basically what it can do is clear the barriers that are holding you down there and free you up from that, so that you can actually start doing better in your life. Now, one thing I should mention about that, by the way, is that the emotional tone scale is a variable thing. Any person can jump up and down on the tone scale from time to time. You know, some good news comes and they go, wow, great. You know, as a person is very high, when a person is very high on the tone scale, in other words, they're in very good condition, surviving well and so forth, they're also more flexible on the emotional tone scale. In other words, they can go up and down. They can be real angry for a moment, and then they're over it, you know, and they're cheerful again. They can be quite sad about something for a little bit when they hear some bad news, and pop back up again to cheerful and so forth. And they don't get stuck down there. And so they're very, very flexible. And but as a person gets more, let's say, in not such a good condition, so excuse the cell phone in the background, as a person gets more fixed in their condition with bad experiences that have pulled them down and pulled them down and pulled them down, they become more fixed in that lower band of the emotional tone scale. And they're not able to freely move on the tone scale. So you won't find that they shift very easily. They'll be pretty much fixed at a particular tone level most of the time, whatever that might be. As I say, if you find yourself in a lower tone scale, well then all the more reason, listen and watch what I have to say and to offer, because there may be something that can really make a difference. that can be done, as I say, through counselling, which is called auditing in Scientology or Dianetics, or it can be done through training or knowledge in the subject. One thing Hubbard found was that there are like you have three main areas of therapy that can be done. One is counselling, of course, and the other is training or knowledge, and the other is a change of the environment. And you'll find that if you go, sometimes if you go for a holiday somewhere and just change the environment, you can feel a whole lot better. You go somewhere different where things around you aren't kind of like reminding you of bad experiences you've had and so forth. You will actually start feeling better. So change of environment can be a good thing, is at least a way of some temporary therapy, if you like, and and also education or knowledge in how the mind works and why you are in the condition you're in and so forth, and how to get out of that. And that's what the books of Scientology and Dianetics offer. And on that, there's Hubbard wrote many books, and he did many lectures, which are recorded all on CD. I have a whole library of them myself. I've got a huge library of them. There are something like 2,000 lectures that Hubbard made over his life. And so there's a lot of material we can use to better a person. There are many different techniques. Amongst that library, I have many books. There's a 18-volume set. I should pull one of those out maybe in the next video and get you some idea of it's just a vast technology which can be applied, and it's very precise and has to be done properly, and there are mistakes that can be made in it, but none of it's fatal. You don't die from it or anything like that, but it might not result in the right product if you don't apply it correctly. And so it's important to learn it properly and learn what to apply in the right situation. Yeah. So, okay, that's another subject. Now, I was talking about the smart meters, and I talked about the teeth and root canals and so forth. One of the things is that why I got into all of that as well was that there's been recently this news about directed energy weapons being used for fires in California and Greece and so forth. And then I found on the internet many copies from different websites of a new 2017-2018 directed energy weapons market report for investors, and it was to encourage people to invest in the directed energy weapon market. Excuse me. And that directed energy weapons are a form of laser, and there are actually subsections and different categories of directed energy weapons, but they very much use electronics and lasers and so forth. One is non-lethal, which is, for example, crowd control using microwave technology to heat the skin just a few millimeters in, and it creates a burning sensation that's just terribly uncomfortable. And so it can break up crowds, and it has reportedly been used already in warfare as well. There is lasers which can be fixed, can be fixed into ships or airplanes or UAVs, which is unmanned aerial vehicles. It can be basically anywhere you can hold a gun or something or place one, then it can be used. In fact, they have also got sort of so-called machine gun type shape lasers which can be used as well, which when aimed at a person can basically have fatal results without anyone seeing what happened. So I guess one of the scary things, if you like, about laser weapons is that they're not always visual. And those things that we can't see are usually those things that we get scared about. If you can't see it, but it's really there, then it can be a scary thing for a lot of people. And those people, and I keep on talking about the teeth thing, but those people who've had root canals and so forth, and you have a nervous system like that, you can be more subject. Anyone whose immune system has been compromised can be more subject to all this technology like 5G and so forth, like smart meters and directed energy weapons. So here's the thing. Okay, I already had root canals done and so forth. So I already had this damage done to my nervous system and so forth. And so my body was already compromised to some degree. And how I have overcome that is as a spiritual being. And I will have to say that is why I value Scientology so much and find it very important, and Dianetics technology as well, because there's two subjects here. Dianetics, which is specifically about the mind and how the mind works and how it can work against a person, if you like, parts of the mind. And Scientology, which is a spiritual technology and doesn't mean science. It actually comes from skio, which is Greek for knowledge, study of knowledge, or in the more precise translation of it, it's knowing how to know. It's what the word Scientology means. And why I value it so much is because both of these technologies, Dianetics and Scientology, assist you or help you in finding yourself, if you like. And that's a bit of a cliche, if I've ever heard one. But we're talking about this very specifically, finding yourself as a spiritual being. In other words, separating out all the other thoughts and, for example, a person can have a song going around in their head or a thought going around in their head for days. What's that? Well, that's what we call in Scientology, you call a circuit. It's a little piece of thought that's kind of like going around in a circle, or looping. And, so some people were tormented by such things. But but there's an awful lot of that going around, a lot of circuits that you have that you don't even realize they're even there, right? And in conversation, we have them all the time. People go, "Hello, how are you?" And they really don't care how you are. That's not why they're saying it. They're saying it because that's what you say when you see somebody. "Hello, how are you?" See? But when you go to tell them how you really are, if you said honestly how you felt, and let's say you felt terrible, they don't want to hear that. They just wanted to hear that you were good, or that you were okay, or say hello or something. So what they said was actually not what they meant. You know, it's just a phrase. It's a circuit. And they can say, how's the weather? You know, same kind of thing. It's a circuit. Although in this day and age, the weather is becoming more and more a thing of how is it? Because there is a lot of weather modification going on. That's another whole subject. So anyway, as you get rid of those thoughts, and as you understand what those all these side distractions are in your own mind and so forth, you can become more and more. You can more and more clearly spot yourself and who you really are as a being. And I don't mean as a body, right? There's a difference, right? Body is as I say, a piece of meat and so forth. But you as a being, who are you really? And for you to know that, right? And it's not a I am, you know, and it's not a name, or it's not a job or anything like that. It's your individuality, right? It's not even what you're good at or anything like that, because those are all abilities that you have. They're not you. They are things that you assume or take on, right? When you become, I don't know, a good basketball player, a good rugby player, or a great writer, or those are all actually the things that you take on. You assume those, but it's not you. You are what's left when you subtract everything and anything else from the equation. What you're left with is you, and that is you as a spiritual being, and you as a spiritual being are incredibly powerful, right? You talking about directed energy weapons. You as a being can do just the same kind of a thing. You could burn holes and things just by thought if you wanted, right? As a being. Now, the reason most people don't is because they've gotten themselves into trouble doing that too many times in the past, in past lifetimes and so forth. They you know, people have held them guilty for doing things like that, and they've said, well, you shouldn't have done that, and maybe they said it in a different language, or they just said it with thought, you know. But you sure have been made guilty, and you have. And even more than that, more importantly than that, you made yourself guilty for it, because it's not so much what other people hold you guilty to as what you are guilty to for yourself, what you regret doing yourself, that really hurts you, that really gets you to hold yourself back and hold your abilities back. It's when you think that you did the wrong thing. And we are, as beings, we are essentially good, of goodwill, and we try to be good. When you get the true spiritual being, they are inherently good. It is only all these other circuits and additional things and all the things that have happened to you over your lifetimes and so forth that make a person bad. And you know, it's the terrible thing that was done that you then want to, you know, get revenge for or something. And that revenge then becomes a driving impulse that then becomes the person, if you like, and so you get this person who's just going out with a vengeful kind of life. Now I could be accused of that a bit in life, but I assure you that I'm not natively vengeful. I'm just I like to be a fun kind of a person, really. But we all have to fit into life somehow. So here we go. So that's what we're trying to do. In Dianetics and Scientology, what we're doing is trying to separate out to where you just go, oh, well, that's me, you know, I am me, you know, and without all the circuitry and all these extra additives that people, you know, even when somebody says you are this, you are that, you know, and you feel, oh, am I? You know, and you take it on to a little bit, you know. They say, oh, you know, you're ugly, you know, and you know, and a person goes home and they like look in the mirror, am I really ugly? I don't know, you know, and they start wondering about that, you see, and their attention has become drawn in to themselves, and not back out on their environment. But it's not even drawn into themselves as a spiritual being. They're now looking at their body and thinking, am I ugly? Now, the answer to that, of course, is that you are not your body, you see. So you can't be ugly because you are not even physically visible or anything, you see. And the truth is, really, is that as a spiritual being, you're real beautiful. you are not your body, and you are basically good. So you know, anything that you feel is horrible about yourself is not you. It's something that you've accumulated somewhere along the way. And you know, the whole thing here, the whole strategy here is to get you back to being yourself, and where we can have a bit of a fun life instead of it being so damn serious all the time. And you know, life can be fun again. But at the moment, what we've got is a society out there which is just how do you say, stuck on making people guilty, you know, for this or for that or for the other, and filled with, you know, distrust and so forth. And you know, well, is he okay? You know, you know, how do we really know whether to trust this person or not? You know, are they trying to do something to me or something? And terrible amount of that going on, and you know, it's understood because there have been so many abuses, and not only that, those things that happen to you are generally those things that you've done to others as well. You know, because you start, you know, karma is a kind of a thing, if you like. You start harming other people, and next thing you know, you'll have all sorts of problems happening to yourself. So the better you can be to other people, the better it is for you in the long run. You know, even if it's just from a point of pure selfishness, you should try to be nice to other people, because you're not going to have good stuff coming back if you start being, you know, real nasty. Now, that is not to say you shouldn't, you know, defend yourself against those who would harm you either, because that's another whole subject. Now, I think I've kind of covered a few things. So as I say, it's been very random, and I've just sort of, I don't know, maybe I'll put together a bit more of a subject line of what I'm going to cover in the next videos. But this kind of gives you a start, you know. And if anyone wants to ask me some questions as a result of having watched this, then I'd be totally happy to try to answer those questions. I'm not going to answer from any sarcastic kind of approach. Anyone who's just doing it to, I don't know, you know, be an idiot or whatever, or to try to be the critical person they are or whatever. But I'm not even going to go on to that. But if you really want to find out some things have some real questions to what I say, then you know, fire away, and we'll see if I can answer them. So that's it for now, and thanks for listening. And I'll see if I can get this meeting ended, this you know, interview thing ended, and I can get this up and onto YouTube and onto Facebook. That's it for now. Nigel at Spiritual Awareness New Zealand, check me out.